The American Federation of Teachers is the premier educational organization in Corpus Christi, Texas. We are a family of professionals with state and national affiliations, including the Texas AFT, AFT, and the AFL-CIO. CCAFT represents teachers, librarians, counselors, paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and maintenance workers. Our main concern is the well-being and public education of our children in the Coastal Bend. CCAFT is producing this program to keep our community abreast of educational issues during the 2013 legislative session and to highlight the good news in our local public schools. CCAFT is the only educational employee organization in Corpus Christi with the strength, courage, capacity, and resolve to affect positive change at the local, state, and national levels. For our kids, for them to achieve the American dream in our democratic society. No more excuses. Our children come first, and we are here to do everything we can to ensure that our legislature does right by our kids in 2013. AFT stands for the American Federation of Teachers, but it also stands for all families together. Thanks, Nelda. All right, AFT. Yeah. How did you like that, Ray? Did you see yourself in the Martin Luther King March?
I had a great time.
Good,
It was a wonderful day.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people understand how long that march has been happening as an annual event in
How long?
Corpus
I think they said, what, 26 years?
26 years. And you know, our AFT member, Marsha Hardiman, who serves on our executive board.
That's right.
Her Delta Theta sorority. You know, they've been putting that march on, so very thankful for
26
her.
years,
Yeah.
yes, and she's a member, and we're grateful for that. Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy Vetta. I'm a practicing classroom teacher of 20 plus years in the Corpus Christi Independent School District, and to my right is Mr. Ray McMurray, President of the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers. Hello again,
Glad
Mr.
to be back.
McMurray.
Glad to be
McMurray.
back. Thank you very much. But I'm equally proud of my 18 years in the classroom as a school teacher as well.
Yeah,
but,
you can't. Being a teacher is just so rewarding, but sometimes it's difficult. Let's talk a little bit more about what AFT has been up to these last few weeks.
Well,
you said the MLK March, and we participated in that. What other events have we been working on?
Well, I can start today and kind of work backwards a little bit.
Why don't you do that?
We, this afternoon, went out to Texas A&M University, and our A&M education department, a lot of people don't realize that they have the highest standards in the state of Texas for entrance into the Department of Education. So their test scores have to be higher than any other college, even Rice University. If you're at A&M College Station, your score to get into the Department of Education at A&M Corpus Christi, they have the highest in the state. So we were out there with about 125 college students. Wow. And all of them are going to be field basing and student teaching in our schools in the Corpus Christi area. So we went out to help them understand how important their liability insurance is, having legal protection, all of our professional development opportunities that we offer.
Support that we offer.
Exactly. So,
well, I graduated from that College of Education. I'm also, I don't know if you know this, Ray, but I sit on the National Alumni Foundation of Corpus Christi State University. So I'm an Islander. Go Islanders.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
But it doesn't surprise me.
Okay, all right. Now, you had a meeting recently with, is it Blake Farenthold?
Yes.
Who? Blake Farenthold?
Congressman Farenthold.
Okay.
So today we were at A&M visiting with all the college students out there to become teachers. And yesterday we had a labor meeting. Some of the AFL-CIO unions like the AFGE, the Federal Government Workers. We had some steel workers with us. We also had the IBEW. This time the CWA did not get a chance to make it. But we, of course, AFT was present. And we went to Blake's office, and we were able to discuss with him some of the issues that are really, really important to working class families and labor and education, like the DREAM Act for our school teachers, and tried to communicate to Blake that some of these students that, even though their parents may have come here illegally, these are students that have been raised in our culture and that their work ethic is second to none. A lot of these kids have a deep passion for living the American dream, and their work ethic have been some of the best students I've ever taught. And to remove them and deport them, we just find unacceptable. We really wanted him to look at a pathway for citizenship for some of these.
So what did he say? I'm curious. As a LULAC president of 4444, I want to know what he said.
Well, Blake was in D.C., so he had his new
so
staffer.
he didn't give you an audience.
We had a one of his Bob Howder, who is his new staff person here in Corpus Christi, met with us and was a very fine, respectful gentleman and gave us a lot of time to talk. But second thing we talked about and we expressed as an AFT is the Social Security fairness for teachers. Our educators, whether you're a custodian, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're even a principal, you pay into TRS. We have our own state pension system, as you know, Dr. Veta.
Yes.
But when you take that TRS pension, even if you've paid into Social Security, you lose that money. Your spousal benefit, if you're married and your husband or wife paid into Social Security.
I paid a lot of money into Social Security already, Ray.
Well,
am I not going to get my benefits?
The way the federal law is set up, it's one of the most unfair provisions, I think, impacting public school employees. And once you take your TRS, they call it double dipping. But if you worked at Valero and had a private pension and your Social Security, you would get to keep both, but not school employees. And we can change this in Congress. And we have asked Mr. Farenthold, now I will say he has not signed on yet, and every single person that has a family member working in the public schools needs to understand how unfair the Social Security system is working for our public school employees.
Well, the next thing, I want to congratulate you, Mr. President, because it's my understanding that our resolution for the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers regarding the anti-vouchers was passed by the school board, CCISD school board. Tell me about that.
Went to the school board meeting on MLK Day after the march, and we got a unanimous vote. We went forward with an anti-voucher resolution, and we basically brought that language forward, and the school board voted a resounding unanimous vote we're not going to have vouchers in Corpus Christi.
Oh yeah,
that was the statement, and of course this is going to go to the legislature.
Now we're one of the first school districts in Texas to adopt that resolution, anti-voucher resolution, correct?
Right, and now we want to go to the other outlying districts in the Coastal Bend, but it was sent us a very strong message.
There's no question in my mind that CCAFT is the educational, organizational type of leader that we need in Corpus Christi, that we're cutting edge, and I'd like to congratulate you because that is a monumental accomplishment.
You bet. Well, and that's what we're about. You know, this show is about AFT, all families together. And when we stop charters, we win for families.
Now our next topic is standardized testing. And you know, standardized testing to me is a kind of like a voodoo type of a topic because I've seen standardized testing the way it's supposed to be, where students are tested and teachers are able to get that data and analyze the data and teach to the needs of the students. But that's not what we're doing in Texas. There's a difference now, and there are two slides that you're probably watching on the screen right now. One is a definition of standardized testing, and the other one is high-stakes testing.
When you and I were in school, Dr. Veta, we took tests, but the test was used as a diagnostic tool.
Correct.
To find out what classes we needed for the next semester or the next year, kind of where we were in relation to the general population. But really it was meant to tailor what needs we as a student. It was never meant to punish the student.
Because you're talking about punitive measures that are taken when students don't do well on that test. And the fact of the matter is, I think high-stakes standardized testing reduces the quality of instruction.
Well, this brings me to the Commissioner of Education who just left office under Rick Perry, Robert Scott.
Okay.
He used a term at the end of the last session, or last year, where he said that testing in our public schools in Texas has now become a perversion.
A perversion?
He said it's become a perversion. He said it has become the heart of the vampire. He said it was now the cheerleader of mediocrity.
I like that. I like that
And
phrase.
he even went on to kind of use an analogy that Eisenhower had used against the military-industrial complex, that we've created this whole money machine around those operations. And the test may have started with a good intention, but now where you have curriculums or different curriculum plans that are sold to help you pass the test. We have this little culture of pass the test materials to purchase, to buy, and it's become, you know, not just a cottage industry, but a military industrial complex where is this really now just about funding this corporatization of education?
So it's not about the students. It's not about educating our kids. It's about people making money.
Right. And when you think about trusting our educators, because we've been testing for a long, long time.
Yes.
Now we're told what to teach, how to teach, when to teach. And when it doesn't work, then the X is on the teacher's back. It's your fault. When we were never given the creative and academic freedom to measure our students where we got them and teach them and gauge them and test them the way that we should as professionals.
And you're absolutely right, Ray. As a practicing classroom teacher, it's very difficult because they give you a scope and sequence, and all teachers have to be on the same thing at the same time, regardless of what the needs of the students are in that particular classroom. You know, even on some days when you're teaching a lesson, some classes, especially in high school, might do very well on that lesson, but some other classes may not do so well. So you have to shift in the way you teach those lessons, and that's something that they don't take into account.
Right.
And I think it's a smoke and mirrors type of thing, saying we're doing all this, we're teaching your children all this, when in reality, we in the classroom are struggling very much so in trying to teach what people think we should teach and teaching what needs to be taught.
Exactly. And, that kind of takes me to...
And we're the professionals.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And that kind of takes us to the next topic around testing I wanted to talk about, and that's how much testing are we really doing and how productive is it, how meaningful is it? There was an analogy last year about this analysis to weighing the pig.
Wait a minute. I have something here for that. Hold on.
Are we weighing the pig? And there was a quote that basically said, look, does the quality of the pork get any better just because we continue to weigh the pig more times?
Here we go. That's a pig. Does it, Ray?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think so.
I don't think the quality of the pork gets better because we weigh the pig more frequently. And, and so it kind of begs the question, at some point you have to stop weighing the pig and you got to feed the pig and make sure that you're ready.
Yikes.
You're ready for contest. But it was a quote that got national attention.
I see.
And our local superintendent had made a quote that, hey, are we just continuing to feed the pig on this test and really not prepare for the meaning behind it?
I like that.
But here's the deal, though. It gets into this quantity versus quality. If we're, for the pig, if you weigh me less, but at the end of the day I still get slaughtered, then for me, I still lose. And so part of this equation really is, yes, we have to find a way to test less. We have to find a way to put less emphasis on the test. But at the end of the day, if we're still using the test to punish the student, punish the child, punish the teacher, punish the community, close the school, label it as underperforming, and if we're still using the test to destroy the culture of learning, as opposed to really using it as a diagnostic tool, then it's not just about how frequently we're testing, but it's why we're testing.
Well, I think with this new test that's coming up, the STAR test, it takes up 45 at least instructional days. It takes 45 days of instruction just to measure what the child has learned. How right is that? How perverted is that?
Well, I mean, I would agree with you, Dr. Vetta, and and I think that as this legislative session progresses, I think that we should give credit to the state representative out of San Antonio, Mike Villarreal. He has now introduced a bill last week, and we're of course very early in the session, but it's House Bill 596.
Okay, what's that about?
What it does, it basically is going to reduce the total number of tests needed for graduation. From right now, to graduate, you literally have to pass 15 different tests. It would reduce the test from 15 to 4. So there, in terms of quantity, we're going to be de-emphasizing how much testing the students are doing. It also caps at 10% of the school year and school days the time that can be spent testing for the test, preparing for the test, drill and kill for the test. So in a sense, it starts to put some real parameters into how much time that we're using for instruction and learning to really just drill and kill for test preparation.
Well, Ray, I think I heard you say that some people in the Republican Party, that's what I heard now, were thinking about extending the test to kindergarten.
Yeah, there's another.
Tell me about that.
Well,
What's that about? That's ridiculous.
there have been some comments made.
Are
For
these
those,
people who aren't teachers, aren't practicing
no,
professionals,
I mean, I don't think
right?
these are folks that have
Woo!
PhDs in early education childhood,
Oh,
okay? But they may be
ridiculous.
part of this military-industrial
That's what it
complex
is.
around the test. But certainly, there are some comments being made in the legislature to push the high-stakes testing down to the kinder level.
Come on now.
Now, the American Federation of Teachers would be opposed to the expansion of testing grade levels and moving it to the pre-K level. But we like Mike Villarreal's, House Bill 596 because it does begin to put some limits on the time that we're spending preparing for the test, the actual test that you have to take, and it provides an out for students with special needs.
Well, now that you mention that, I took the liberty, Ray, of going out and filming some teachers who were here for a meeting the other day.
All right.
And
I hope they're AFT members.
they are AFT members,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. And I posited the question: what do you think of? Are you in favor of high stakes standardized testing?
Right.
And here's what they had to say.
Let's take a look.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Hey, Steve.
Hi.
Are you in favor of standardized testing, high stakes standardized testing?
Oh no.
Are you in favor of high stakes standardized testing?
No.
Hi, are you in favor of standardized testing?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
Why not?
I feel that it is unfair to the children. My son went to high school with a student. She was a salutatorian of her high school class, and she was unable to graduate because she did not pass her standardized test.
That's ridiculous.
It is, because this was a smart girl, and some people are just not test takers.
It's not really test knowledge that the student has acquired. A test that a student can master a test. But the learning that goes on in a school district, it cannot be measured and just quantify measures like that. And every school year you have different groups of children, and to compare them equally is just can't function that way.
Takes up too much time in the school year. We're losing about 45 days of school year just to testing. That's a lot of money that we're wasting on testing.
I work in a very high-risk, low-income school, and the tests are across the board the same. Our children cannot do the tests because they are not exposed to a lot of the things that other children on the south side are. And the test does not prove anything other than the kid is not passing. That has nothing to do with how the child progresses. And I just don't believe in them. I really don't believe in them. Europe has never used them. I don't know what, and they are high level educated kids. Here, I don't think so. I don't like the test. I never have. Bottom line.
I like your shirt.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Ray, now that we've heard from a high stakes standardized testing, do you have anything else to add to the discussion about high stakes standardized testing?
Well, I wanted to also make note of a Stanford study that was just released last week that we were able to get a hold of. You know, the PISA, the Program on International Assessment, that's the one big worldwide test that all the developed countries and international countries take, around the globe. That's probably the leading indicator that's used to measure student success and student achievement. And the Stanford study took those results, and right now they're used to kind of bat our schools over the head, because in math we're number 25, and in reading we're number 14. And the impression always is that we're underperforming and we're not developing students that have the skills that other countries have. Well, the Stanford study said you need to look at something. And if you really take into consideration our social classes and our low socioeconomically disadvantaged students with other countries, we go from number 25 in the world in math to number 10. So we become a top 10 country. In reading, we go from number 14 to number 4, so we become a top 5 in the world in terms of student achievement and what we're doing in our American public schools. So to continue, with this Stanford study, one of the things that we have to look at is, again, how are we using testing in this country? Is the test really being used as a vehicle to blame public education as opposed to really looking at what is the societal cost of dealing with poverty? What is the societal cost of dealing with drug addiction? What is the societal cost of dealing with not having adequate health care? Every nation that's doing well in public education has way higher student services and wraparound social services to deal with that.
Well, you know, and during the last show, we were talking about vouchers and how some of these people wanted to send their kids to charter schools, but they don't have the same requirements of standardized testing that we have in the public schools.
There's really no guarantee that student achievement's going to go up. There's no accountability system to really measure that. And in reality, when you do measure us according to PISA, when you factor in socioeconomic conditions, we're doing very well. And I don't think we're given credit for that, and we should be. How do we reduce the quantity of testing? How do we look at the quality of why we're testing? And how are we fair about measuring us compared to the rest of the world and really deal with the truth about the poverty, the drug addiction, the lack of health care, all of those things? In other countries, when we look at their poverty rates, when we look at their lack of access to health care, when we look at their drug addiction issues, well, guess what? Their test scores are low too. They just have far fewer of that than we do. And that's a societal and cultural problem that I think we need to be realistic about and stop blaming our students, our schools, because we open our doors and we take what walks in. And we do our very best to love those kids and educate them to the very best of our ability.
And care for them.
And our teachers are doing an awesome job. And when they use this high stakes test to say that we're underperforming and failing, what they're really afraid to do is tell the people the truth about what's going on in our economy, what's going on with our lack of health care, what's going on with poverty and drug addiction. Those are the real issues. And to blame the school is just simply wrong. And to use the test as a vehicle to do it, that's what we have to put an end to.
It's a sin against our children. Ray, if we want to learn more about standardized testing, I mean, I could talk about standardized testing forever, but in this case, where can we get more information? Does AFT offer any websites or any information on the internet regarding standardized testing?
Right. I mean, I think if you go to our www.aft.org or if you go to www.texasaft.org, you're going to find many examples of research in the Texas Legislative Hotline. There are a lot of articles that are and bills to follow regarding the high stakes testing.
So so far in our shows, we've talked about school funding schools adequately. We've talked about vouchers. And now we've talked about high stakes standardized testing.
Right.
So that is important to our cause in terms of the children. Tell us a little bit about Lobby Day and what we're going to go and tell the legislatures regarding these issues that I've just
I'm glad you're asking that question, because we want to do on March the 11th, which is the first Monday of spring break, and CCISD will be out, and so will a lot of our local areas. And we are inviting our members, but not just our members, we're inviting community members. We're inviting friends of AFT to ride on 3 charter buses with us, and we're going to offer a free lunch that day on the grounds of the Capitol. We're going to have meetings with Abel and
Herrero,
Chuy.
State Representative.
Abel Herrero, State Representative Abel Herrero, our State Senator Chuy Hinojosa.
Right.
We're going to be inside the Capitol with them, looking at them one-on-one in a room with our folks there, with our legislators, to talk about education issues. And that's going to be about 10 or 10:30 when we get there. We're going to meet at Carroll High School, and we're going to have our charter buses there. You should be able to park at Carroll. And we'll get on the bus at 6 a.m., 5:30, get there, leave between 5:30 and 6 a.m., and we'll get to Austin around 9:30, and we'll get off the bus at the AFL-CIO building, which is right across the street from the state capitol, and we will go into the Capitol and go to that first meeting room with Abel and Chuy to talk about public education. And I hope that we talked about today Mike Villarreal's bill on high-stakes testing, House Bill 596. We can talk about where are we by March 11th. These bills are going to be filed, and we're going to be getting close to they're going to be assigned a committee, and we're going to be looking at how this is moving forward. But that's going to be an important thing to talk about.
And you hit the nail right on the head, Ray. Talking, having dialogue with our legislators. If we don't talk to them, if we don't express to them how we feel about these issues, then they're not going to know. They don't have a crystal ball. They don't. have their tarot cards read about how we feel about issues.
Exactly.
We have to talk to them and have dialogue. That's why you and I are having dialogue today. That's why we have dialogue with among our teachers and paraprofessionals and support personnel, everyone, to talk about these issues because they affect our children.
Right. We have to communicate with our legislators and let them know this time that
we can't be shy.
The cuts in 11 were unacceptable. That's part of why we're here, to communicate with the public. Let's rally together. Let's stand shoulder to shoulder, and let's go to Austin on March 11th, and let's let them know that we can undo the damage that was done. And, you know, in the last session, Todd Hunter had a 7% voting record with public education.
Woo!
All right.
That doesn't sound good, Ray.
We saw an across-the-board devastation to school budgets, to class size, to staffing ratios, to security measures in our school. I mean, there have been real consequences that don't just hurt teachers, that are hurting students and the quality of instruction and safety in our schools. And when Mr. Hunter's 7% voting record, you know, what AFT did is we took the top 15 pieces of legislation from 2011. What were the 15 most important things that mattered to children and to schools and to quality education? And what was how many of those votes were right and how many were wrong? And Connie Scott and Todd Hunter each had 7 and 8% voting record. And that's just unacceptable. We have to do, Texas can do better than that. And I'm really hoping that in this session, you know, we're going to meet with Todd Hunter at 2 o'clock on Lobby Day. And we want to have a good group of folks there standing together, you know, meeting with Mr. Hunter and letting him know that this is the session to restore the funding. This is the session to get it right.
Well, you know, I took a vow this legislative session right before it started, sort of like a New Year's resolution. I said, I'm trying to be nice to everyone. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to, there's a give and take in these discussions. But by God, I am not going to allow people to vote the wrong way and I'll not call them on it. Well, and I will say that publicly. I will put it on Facebook. If I don't believe that an elected official is doing the right thing by our children, they're going to answer to it, and I'm going to tell the whole world and do everything in my power to let everyone know if they failed our children. But I'm also going to tell them about people who did well and who do support our children, like the school board did with the voucher anti-resolution.
Right.
Anti-voucher resolution.
To Todd's credit, I do want to back up to the 2009 legislative session where Todd had a 90% voting record. He was actually one of the top Republicans in the entire House of Representatives.
What happened?
You know, on education issues.
Jeez.
And I think Rick Perry and the Tea Party happened, and he went along with it. But you see, it doesn't have to be that way. And that's why I think having these conversations and getting the public to really understand what the cuts have done, what it's meant to safety, security, enrichment, classroom instruction, class size, being able to offer a diverse curriculum for our kids. The fine arts have been slashed. You know, kids are not getting, we don't have music and fine arts in all of our schools like we used to. It's the students that are suffering.
If you want to learn more about our Lobby Day and other things that we've talked about on the program today, you can find us on Facebook. We're the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers on Facebook, and you can also go to our website.
On our website, www.CCAFT, which stands for Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers.org, CCAFT.org. There's a way to register for Lobby Day.
Okay.
And it's very easy.
Okay, they have to fill out the form?
Yeah, it's an electronic page, and all you do is put in your name and address and phone number and some contact information so we can send you, details about the trip. But you'll be registered. You'll get a reserved seat.
How much will it cost for people to go on this trip?
Zero.
Well,
whatever they want to buy as souvenirs at the Capitol, but we're paying for their seat, so the gas there and back is a free ride for those attending with us. Lunch is free for you that day at the Capitol. And then coming back, we are going to stop at the Outlet Mall for 1 hour. Because people like to get out for a little bit. But we will be coming back that night, probably around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We should be back before 10. But this is a great opportunity for the community to speak up. And our legislators, when we get off that bus and get into those meeting rooms with them, this is really the opportunity to share our message.
That's right.
And so we want to invite the community to be a part of that.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on the CCAFT Legislative Report.
Thank you very much.